Welcome to the Crypto Layer HQ. Today we have finally broken a major support level. As you can see here, we have now broken the 74.8K level, which was our support zone back in April 2025, and also the first point of resistance we reached in March 2024. So this is a very critical level, which we have now broken underneath. I would say if we start to get a weekly close or potentially 2 or 3 weekly closes, probably means we're going to go lower, since it means we weren't able to hold this level. What are the next key levels to look at? So the obvious one is the 200-week simple moving average, where I think we're ultimately going to end up at. Currently, it's at 58K. I doubt we're going to go straight to it. It's probably going to be a process where we get lots of, ups and downs along the way. But where can we expect to potentially see bounces? So some key levels are definitely going to be 70K, since whole numbers are psychological levels, and even 60K is a big psychological level, since whole numbers are always points where we end up, bouncing or failing from on their first attempt. And also you can see in the past, those are levels that we bounced off and acted as resistance. Even back in the 2021 bull market, the 60K was where we first failed. And then in November 2021, we almost got to 70K, just 1K shy, but we also ended up failing from there. So I think the 60 and 70K levels are definitely big psychological levels to watch next. So we could potentially end up getting a bounce from the 70K, because definitely once people see the price below 70K, once they start seeing the price of Bitcoin starting with the number 6, a lot of people are going to sell and capitulate. And oftentimes where most people end up selling and capitulating results in a local low. So potentially we get a bounce from there, where we could end up revisiting 80K, which is another psychological level, and also another whole number. You can see we first bounced off the 80K here, and even back in March, April of 2025, it also acted as a good support level. So potentially we end up breaking the 70K. A lot of people see Bitcoin's price starting with the number 6, which they haven't seen since late 2024. So it's definitely going to be scary for a lot of people. So they could potentially end up capitulating and selling into that point, which ends up marking a local low. And then we end up getting a bounce to 80K, where maybe a lot of those people who panic sold and capitulated end up rebuying. And then that could end up resulting as a local high. And then we end up coming back lower to maybe retesting the 70K region, and then eventually failing and getting some slow bleed eventually to the 200-week simple moving average. That's one path we could end up having. Another path is we could just end up failing, and if no buyers come in, we just end up slowly going to the 200, well, not that slowly, but we end up going to the 200-week simple moving average. So I think those are the two most likely paths we will go down right now. Now, the big question is if we do end up at the 200-week simple moving average in Q1 or Q2 of 2026, does that mean it's a good buying opportunity and we should buy, or should we wait and see where price ends up in Q4 of 2026? And what I would say is it's hard to know exactly how the bear market is going to play out, but when we're trading at the 200-week simple moving average, it's definitely a good buy area, as it always has been historically speaking. So even if we do go to the 200-week and we do bounce from it or end up going lower, regardless, it's going to be a good area to potentially buy a good amount or even start DCAing. I would definitely keep some cash for later on in 2026 because at the 200-week moving average, that's about a 53% drawdown where it's currently at. And the 53% drawdown, if we look at previous years drawdown, the last cycle was a 77% drawdown, and the cycle before that was an 84% drawdown. So in the grand scheme of things, a 50% drawdown isn't that big, but it's still at the 200-week simple moving average. And since we didn't get such a parabolic move up, it would be understandable if we end up getting a more shallow bear market. So I think what's safer to do is to be DCAing at the 200-week simple moving average and keeping some cash into late 2026 and potentially even early 2027. But by that point, by Q1 of 2027, you should probably be done allocating all the cash you wanted to allocate to Bitcoin. If you're DCAing, it's a good way to manage risk, since if we do end up going lower, that's great. You end up buying at better prices, lowering your average. If we do end up going higher, at least you then buy nothing when it first hit the 200-week simple moving average. No one knows exactly what's going to happen, but it's definitely good to identify price points that make sense to enter at. And the 200-week simple moving average is definitely one of those points. And if we go lower, I would continue to DCA. And even if we look at the 50K region, that's also another amazing support area, since even back in this channel, when we first broke under it, we just wicked and went straight back up. And you can see even here, it held as support, it retested it, and then we bounced. And even back in 2021, the 50K region acted as resistance several times. So oftentimes resistance flips into support. So you definitely, on a long enough time frame, you're not going to end up regretting DCAing at the 200-week and going into the end of 2026.